Доброго дня.
So good morning, dear participants. Greetings, dear ladies and gentlemen watching us. My name is Ivan Lakhtionov. I am the Innovations Director of Transparency International Ukraine, and it's my honor today to moderate our event dedicated to representation of sociological survey like what Ukrainians are afraid of in future construction. Before I start, I just want to say that our stream, we have it in English and Ukrainian, so if you need to pick any, please, in description, you may take a proper link and you just get your translation of proper language if you need. So I think we should start, and before this, again, at all events, I stress on that. I'd like to express my gratitude to the armed forces of Ukraine. Thanks to them, today we have this opportunity to talk about this important issue, discuss various things, speak of Ukraine's future. And we can move around the city, but it's also important not to forget, we all understand that the war is still there. And today we again had Odessa being attacked, Kryvosheya before that, and destructions are still taking place. And there's a logical question, what to do with the recovery, with reconstruction in those conditions, waiting for the war to end or start doing it now. A lot of questions, a bunch of questions. Many people speak of strategy, recovery strategy. What should it look like? What should we start with? And so on. Apart from those questions, we have so many concepts and ideas, floating in the society. Many do talk about it. And to answer these questions in Transparency International Ukraine with the support of USAID project, supporting anti-corruption champion institutions of Dmytro with InfoSapiens Agency, we've launched a survey, and today we'll talk about this survey. So before I start, I'd like to talk about mention a very important thing. It's crucial today, definitely, cohesion of Ukrainian society and cohesion of business, of civic society, unity of state representatives in general. So today we have so many examples of successful cooperation and interaction. We speak of this triangle, partnership triangle, golden triangle, as we call it, when all these communities do merge. With this principle was used to build Prozoro procurement system. You all know that. And I'm pretty sure we'll talk about the importance of using the electronic system of procurement in the conditions of Ukraine's reconstruction. So our NGO, Transparency International Ukraine, is one of the founders of Coalition Rise Ukraine, respectively established to ensure integrity, sustainability, and effectiveness of reconstruction. So these clusters are very important. I express my gratitude to all our speakers and partners. Thank you for actually providing us time. Thank you for joining us. Our event will be broken into two, let's say, groups, parts. First is the presentation of the survey, and second part, then we will have our guests involved in discussion of the results. And whom do we have today who will discuss it with us? Dmytro, Turchak, Head of Department of Strategic Planning, Ministry of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure Development. Bohdan, Boyko, Recovery Project Leader, USAID Project Supporter, Anti-Corruption Champion Institutions, Dmytro, SACCI Project. So Yuriy Kryvosheya, co-owner of Toronto-Kyiv, Head of Supervisory Board, PromPrylad Renovation, we know him. Khalilov, Senior Program Manager of USAID Engage project. And respectively, it's not very gender balanced, unfortunately, our team today, but the key part, the first part, the presentation of a survey, this will be actually presented by our Operations Director of Transparency International Ukraine, Anastasiya Mazurok. And I'm not stealing her time, please, Nastya. You're so welcome. Thank you, Ivan. Good morning, colleagues, and definitely it's such an honor for me to present the results of the survey. It's really important to understand that with all these concepts we work with, all that we design, we can see that there is a social discourse circling around those important issues, which are the concern of our society. So we decided that for our plans to be well balanced, strategically feasible, and for us to involve various stakeholders and partners' ideas and opinions. We plan to have that survey launched on how to recover the country, how to restore the country. So we decided to ask not only Ukrainian people, like what they think, what are expectations, but also representatives of business. So it's really important today. This discussion will be important today. Like, what is the opinion? What is the perception of various stakeholders of these outcomes? So, briefly about the methodology. So, we had the representative survey launched for 2 key target groups, Ukrainian population, and we covered more than 1,000 respondents. And the sample is representative. Based on parameters, the parameters were the residents prior to full-scale invasion, and the error is approximately 3%. Also, entrepreneurs, 400 entrepreneurs were interviewed, broken into various subgroups: individual entrepreneurs, micro businesses, macro, medium and small business. And also separately, we had the relocated enterprises, because we understand that these enterprises are quite different with their expectations and level of losses. It's also important to underline that basically the collection of data took place in the end of March, beginning of April. So the period when we still had blackouts all around the country, but there were no consequences of these terrorist acts, like in Kakhovska HPP, and these horrible shellings that we have right now. It's important to take this into account for the context. But for general trends and general understanding of the attitudes, these results are really important. And I do believe that quite unexpected we may get. First of all, we'll talk of what Ukrainians and business representatives, what are the key problems for them in this context. Traditionally, the top 3 problems are war. Almost 100%, of course, say that this is a serious problem. High-scale destruction and corruption. 77% of Ukrainians do consider corruption to be a serious problem. Also, lack of professionalism in state agencies and unemployment. The statistic, mostly women speak about unemployment. So we assume that women, unfortunately, are affected much more because they lose their jobs and they have an opportunity to provide for their families in these conditions. Just to compare, what do representatives of business think as problems? Of course, war, top 1. What's important for business? Corruption comes to 2nd position. 81% of business people say that corruption is really hitting them hard. It's a serious problem. Yes, of course, destruction then goes 4th position for business people. Lack of equality in justice system and lack of professionals in state agencies. It's important to underline that business, we will see it in the presentation, says that there is a lack of that such an important aspect of social capital, human capital in Ukraine. Business underlines that there is a migration, outflow of personnel. They are losing professionals and experts, and it's a super important problem also for our future. On this slide, you can actually see the correlation of business and population opinions, respectively, what's important. If we speak about these key aspects, we won't stop with that, I think. So we've discussed also with business, what is the situation, current situation. We received the results that 83% of business were affected. They had losses. Half says they had very substantial losses and damages of extremely substantial. 25%, 1/4, says that they had destructions or damages, but symptomatically is that among these people, among these business representatives who say that they had certain destructions and damages. Only 29% of them, each third, says that they already actually record those losses and register these, or they are in the process, or they've already done that. Why not? 50% say they don't. It doesn't make sense for them. They don't think it's like feasible. This is one of the first markers that I'll mention later. Lack of vision. People don't have trust. I mean, business people don't have trust when it comes to state agencies. This is quite serious figure, and we have to keep it in mind. If we do speak about other problems apart that we mentioned, but of those that we mentioned, business is facing, excuse me, lack of demand. So people basically have no money to buy their products. They are losing qualified professionals. The bigger the business, they mention it frequently. They mention people, personnel frequently. Problem with supply chains, and also it's problematic for them to restore their capacity to function. These long-term blackouts and infrastructure aspects as well. That's what we made the photo. This is the population business, like a snapshot of them at current moment, at the moment of survey. Now, when it comes to general expectations and requirements to reconstruction, if we do talk of the following, like what the expectations and demands of population and society, of population and business for the future reconstruction aspects, I understand that this slide is quite extended, but still, I'd like to underline, first of all, both citizens and business people, they underline the importance of strategic plans to be available. Almost 90% say that we need to understand the logic of how we'll move. Also, the vast majority, almost 80% of citizens, 60% of business, agree that all the processes must be transparent and open for everybody to have access to different stages of reconstruction implementation. We also speak of the following. Both citizens and business people, they agree with the statement that we need to start working with reconstruction right now because we have to recover. We have to provide accommodation for those who lost it at those locations where it's already possible to do. Just give me a second. We tried to use different ways to find out the opinion of representatives of business and society with these questions, and we try to polarize. If you pick between restoring the buildings right now, or we need to start building from the scratch, but later 59% of citizens and 63% of business say that, yeah, for those people who lost their houses, they have to start doing it right now, rebuilding it. What's interesting and important, those people who were affected directly, people from eastern regions or IDPs, they much more frequently say that they need to start building it from the scratch after the victory. Yes, the level of risks currently at those territories is much higher. People realize that, and that is why for them this is really very important. It's much more important. If you do talk about the approach that should be picked, how people do believe in centralized approach, importance of reconstruction in general, or just have this very targeted approach for specific locations. 76% of citizens and 78% of business, they stress that they agree with a statement that each community which was affected is special. So the plans must be designed with account of that specificity individually for each settlement. 1/3, less than 1/3, do agree that Ukraine has to recover in a centralized manner with one single plan, unified plan. But 88% of citizens and 94% of business. I just want to say that 99% of big and medium business, they claim that Ukraine has to prepare a plan and strategy right now, not wasting time, not waiting till we get the victory, but start doing it now. We have to prepare, and we have to be ready to know what to do later. And respectively, if we do talk about decentralization as a vision, half of respondents say that funds should be received directly for each project directly. 30% for the mid scenario, and a small share supports the centralized approach to be allocated later for locations. There is a difference between the opinion of people and business. Business, more business representatives say that there is a demand for direct, this project-based approach to funding, and like in big and medium, 77% of business, they supported. When it comes to modernization, it's also interesting, maybe provocative from our side a little bit. But business says, and citizens in business say, that modernization must be an integral part of the process of business activity. It must be continuous, regardless of whether it's recovered or not, reconstructed or not. You have to reconstruct as you can and modernize in the process as well, simultaneously. Interesting results we received on approach and how to pick the executives. Only 14% of people and 13% of business say that the lowest price criterion they will pick. Top 3 positions, it's the international quality control compliance, feedback from requesters, and the experience in such projects. Each of these positions take more than 50%. At least one of these positions were picked by 93% of respondents. So citizens see this, what they see as a priority, quality and price. We all understand that if it's cheap, it's not about quality mostly. So quality must be a priority. And if we speak about so-called localization, do citizens in business see any sense in prioritizing based on local principle? More than 50% pick statement no. There should be no preference, but at the same time 27% agree that there must be preferences for Ukrainian business in general, or 11, 18 and 18% pick the statement for preferences for local business to be given. Now, when it comes to priorities, what priorities do people see, and steps as well? First, how did we carry out that survey? So to pick first priority, second priority, and third priority in the areas, in the sectors. First priority, critical infrastructure. Second, accommodation, recovery and reconstruction, and demining of territories. And of course, social objects to be reconstructed. Secondly, what's important? Citizens do realize that of more and more importance is the social infrastructure reconstruction, but also a high share is given to adaptation of military to peaceful life, because this social aspect, people realize that this social aspect of our future life is of huge importance, because we all see the consequences already. We all understand them. Can we actually compare these results with business? Business more or less agrees with that prioritization as well. So, interesting answers on what is the duration of reconstruction, what our respondents foresee. 60% business and citizens pick option by 10 years or more than 10 years after the victory. So people realize that this is about years and approximately 10 years a decade. This is like an average figure that people do believe in. Okay, the most interesting thing, as for me, the most interesting part, the key concerns on reconstruction process. First of all, it's important to mention here that there is a demand for openness, for data to be open and information to be open. People in business underline that it's really important to get access to each and every to all the data on reconstruction. Who are the authorized people? Who are responsible for the components? What are the stages of the processes? Like, who's controlling the expenses and funding and sources of funding and so on? We can see that all these positions take from 50 to 80%. So the population business declare that this is really important to keep transparency. The concerns. We asked people, we asked our respondents, in your opinion, what can be an obstruction for successful reconstruction? Top two answers you can see in yellow, 73% and 68%. Coming back to corruption schemes and the money laundering, and also lack of control. As a result, we will have the money simply is going to be stolen. Lack of security guarantees, and again, the risk to have the hostilities taking place again. So, if we speak of the moment when Ukrainians put themselves in the post-victory condition, they are afraid of corruption more than of the war itself. So, for me personally, this was a horrible thing to see. The figures are much higher, and moreover, we also try to segment our sample based on the level of activity, civic activity. For more active, for younger citizens, these two parameters, corruption parameters, statistically, these are higher and more important. So actually, in future, people are afraid, to get corruption in future, they don't want to get this back. So it's important to take this into account. It's important to have some measures to avoid it. If we speak about business, we can see that for business, corruption aspects are even more important. Business claims that they are even more afraid of that, like more than 80% of business. So we asked citizens and business on, in your opinion, what are the measures? How can we neutralize these risks and dangers that we mentioned? And here we have interesting answers. So for us to neutralize and mitigate these corruption risks, respondents think that we need to have more controlling mechanisms involving and even increasing the responsibility for corruption and corruption-related crimes. More mechanisms of transparency to be provided and installed to have a chance to control and influence. Also, it's important to speak of we evaluate level of trust and the corruption risk dissemination, because these are important aspects for future constructions, and trust to those who will be actors of the reconstruction. Who gets the most trust? The president, and then international organizations and donors, independent auditing groups and experts, international business, civic organizations. But we can see that the gaps are quite huge. Local authorities, the level of trust to them is quite low, 13%. And Ukrainian society, let's say, it's not something surprising. We don't have this high level of trust, and we've never had local power. This is not something new for us, but the gap, the gap and how polarized these opinions are in evaluations, it's important to mention as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We also ask people, like, what was established? The State Agency on Infrastructure Development and Recovery. So we asked people about this newly established agency, like at the start. We asked people how effective it will be, in opinion of our people. 65% of Ukrainians and 49% of business do believe that this is effective. So we understand that this crisis of trust, skepticism that we have automatically, it's like a response, automatic response for any new structure, but 65 and 49%, I think this is okay. It's pretty okay. It's a significant number. Yeah, it's a trust in advance, given in advance. So just to the last block that we have, it actually demonstrates the answers, like what are the expectations of our respondents when it comes to responsibility for various stages of reconstruction. If the on the previous slides we showed you, like, we can now summarize that society becomes very demanding, highly demanding, and very, very radical, when it comes to future and its participation in it in the future. But here we can see that society is still not fully ready, still not fully understands the responsibility and the roles distribution for each of these aspects. We asked Ukrainians, who, in your opinion, which institutions and various types of activity, like who will be where? Involving funding, who are the leaders? Those institutions that should involve funding: business, local authorities, national business, local authorities, international business, president, international organizations, and donors. Top five. Which institutions have to fund the reconstruction? Again, national business, international organizations, local business, local authorities. Which institutions have to control the expenses? Controlling agencies, independent auditors, locals or communities, president, and CSOs. Which institutions have to set the tasks? President of Ukraine. Top leader, 44%. Then 30% say it's local authorities, legislative bodies, central executives, local communities. And who basically is responsible for the final result? Local authorities, top one, 54%. The President of Ukraine, central executive power bodies, legislative power bodies, local communities. What's important can we take? What is important that we can take out of the data? Local authorities, these are the institutions with critically low level of trust. But people see them as institutions which are part of important stage, and they must give the end result. And they must be responsible for the final result. And this all is backed by these expectations on decentralization approach and project-based approach to reconstruction, and so on. Of course, we asked about the role, how people see themselves in this process, citizens and business. I just want to tell you that today we present, these are not all the data that we present, just a part. Later we will discuss that a little bit in details, but 94% of citizens and 91% of business consider, or they declare, claim, or state that consultations with society and business, these are important. People have to consult. It's a very important thing to take place, and the smaller share, but still a substantial share of respondents, 60%, declared that they are ready to take part in the process. both business and citizens. If we try to summarize right now, okay, let's give a conclusion, brief conclusion of that. First of all, we can see that corruption is one of the top problems for people, and it's like it's a problem that is of huge concern for people today and something that may become a risk in future. We talk about a couple of few trends, important trends, or even key trends, or principles, which people are formulating and presenting towards the authorities and their expectations on future reconstruction. Decentralization principle. So project followed funding, to have certain plans, and this is mandatory strategic planning. Understanding how shall we move forward, not just waiting for someday, but start doing it now, designing the plans and understanding what the strategy of what the dynamics will be. So quality-based. People are ready to wait, but they expect to get high quality, and they expect to have it even better than it was. What does it tell us? Some respondents where there were no hostilities, active hostilities, were in locations where there were no destructions, they still expect to have this reconstruction improving their conditions. Like the village dwellers, they are much more ready. They have this higher demand to like building new schools, kindergartens, hospitals in their communities, or for the roads to be fully repaired. So number 4, very important aspect is engagement and involvement. All of the respondents do consider that it's really, really important to be engaged, to be aware, and they at least declare the readiness to be a part of this process. And of course, it's a really important principle is openness. Openness, the opportunity to have access to information and opportunity to be a part of the process. I'm so grateful, ladies and gentlemen. This is basically all. My part is over. If you have questions, I will definitely answer them. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anastasiya. Thank you, and you can take your seat. And I'll remind you that we have our audience in YouTube and Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, please be active. Give us questions. My colleagues will tell me if we get something. I understand that you need to actually think about it. We can talk for the whole day. We don't have that much time. But we'll try to be brief. Before we come to the second part of this conversation, I'd like to have a brief question posed to all the speakers. Okay, what was unexpected for you? So you listened to the presentation. Briefly, just by 1 minute, 1 or 2 sentences. Like, I'll start as a moderator, maybe. Yeah. I'll take someone's answer, but I'll steal it. But for me, what was really unexpected, what was surprising, on the one hand, local authorities don't have trust, but on the other hand, people want local authorities to be responsible for it and to have oversight. It's like, I don't know what's there. It's a little bit frightening, of course, the corruption, all that stuff, we know about it. Please, if someone wants to be the first, you have microphones. Pick a microphone, one by one. Thank you so much. When it comes to unexpected things, what was the most unexpected thing? The most unexpected answer for me was that corruption as a current problem for people is on the 3rd position. I expected, it's clear that we have war, individual issues like social welfare and access to jobs and income, low incomes, but corruption, it's a surprise. I understand when corruption is like as a future risk, but current problem, that is surprising. Thank you, Aydar. The latest trends, I like that, and all the surveys that Ukrainians are very optimistic when it comes to anything, despite of the war. But this optimism, I don't know where people do take this optimism, how it's generated, maybe formed by media. And I expected from this survey, I expected to have less optimism in that survey from citizens. But no, still a lot of optimism is there. There are risks, there are problems, and people say about it, but people are very optimistic about the future. And for me, it was a surprise. A little bit less optimistic. Yuriy from business, please. What would you say?
Дякую за запрошення.
Thanks for the invitation. I was surprised with a couple of things. First, maybe technical, but if we take the clusters of business, individual entrepreneurs, mid-level, small business, there were gaps in percentage. When it was about social tension and security measures, why for me that is surprising, because with my observations, with my experience, what business is doing right now, no limits between these clusters, almost no limits. We are like one big team. So it was so surprising to see different percentage. The other situation is my personal opinion. The percentage, 30-something% on social tension, is quite low. I'll explain why. It's a bigger challenge. What I would love to see, what each of us can do to take away these three biggest problems: war, corruption, and destruction. What we can do to get rid of that. Thank you for drawing this line. And now we have the representative of state authority. Your impressions, the perception of information. Look, I'm so happy. And I'm not quite surprised, but it confirms that ministry is not isolated from the people. All those key challenges that you mentioned, that respondents mentioned, the ministry is working on that, and we have initiatives. We'll tell you later. It's really nice to see that we're moving according to the demand of people, but not like in a parallel line or separately. Anastasiya, I understand that you've worked a lot with the data, but anyway, what was surprising for you? What was really surprising, these two opinions, top opinions, like the fear for future construction. To me, it seemed that we work in the anti-corruption sector. It's like our bubble, and maybe for us, this is like obvious. But for this fear to be like such a huge one for people, like I was surprised with that. Yeah, people are afraid of that, actually. So, okay, Dmytro. Okay, I'll have a logical continuation of the process. You started speaking of the ministry, that you are on the same level with citizens. You are vibing on the same frequency. So, but there is certain lack of trust we can see, and discouragement because the corruption is in the first place. How can we destroy this barrier? What should we do for people, for business, for all of us to believe in you, to have this faith? What are you doing for it?
Дивіться, мені
Look, I think I need to have a brief introduction of what we're doing to give it. The financial situation in the country, how much money we have on the budget, and, that international organizations are helping us, and donors. Almost all the world is supporting us. And when we talk to our foreign partners, when we talk to publicity, when we talk to NGOs and CSOs, we always hear two statements. First, transparency and accountability. That's what we hear. Yeah. Everything they want from us, this is the first thing they want to get from us. Then ideas, plans, quality, effectiveness, and like everybody stresses on transparency and accountability. What are we doing for it? So first of all, I guess you've seen some presentations, dream system presentation together with the Rise Coalition. We are doing this with you as well. We will present at London conference Dream System. It's a very nice title, but digital recovery. It's a hard acronym, please. Just in simple words. What that system is doing. Transparent system to manage the recovery process. Each project of recovery, from the smallest village to the big infrastructure object, and this system will have everything, all the stages, transparent, with photo reports, access for people, access for law enforcement and controlling bodies, and till the very end. You'll be able to see who's responsible for what, who is reporting, who's doing something, open and transparent. So transparency and accountability are covered, but other component, corruption and safety measures. Okay.
Є це, в принципі, ми
First, we demonstrate, and everyone will see it. The budgets of the projects, you'll be able to see it with Prozoro. Dream system will accumulate everything, including Prozoro. This will be really convenient with a separate office for donor, all the explanations, how to use it. And transparency will ensure this. Access to information. You know how our society is well with control today, controlling functions. I think every movement, every deviation from the standard will definitely be recorded. Anti-corruption compliance, we have in ministries and agencies and all those measures which are standard. I'm just telling what value we're adding. So we'll be working to ensure transparency, maximum transparency and accountability. You mentioned that business and people both say that it would be really good to have an independent audit. We've established the fund to eliminate consequences of military aggression, and it says that all projects will be subject to independent post-audit. We will see everything and then analyze how were the money used. So I think we'll manage to ensure that, but not just the ministries. Civic society will be there as well, controlling bodies, for us to see the problems. As you mentioned, decentralization is like a little different thing, but we'll have to control not the ministries, but the communities where the funds are flowing. Because, yes, we want any recovery to be decentralized, based on the needs of communities and people living there, and the plans for the recovery will come from the community, from the bottom. Thank you.
Доволі важливо. Я хочу від себе
It's really important. I just want to add and stress. We had a representative of the Ministry of State Authority, and I just focus on the following. We, as Transparency International Ukraine, we cooperated with so many ministries, and we do. And the newly established Ministry of Infrastructure and Community Development, they're so open. They declare and they do it. If we need to ask them, as of now, no problems with it. So my gratitude to you personally and to your ministry for being transparent and open. Dmytro mentioned an important thing. I'm passing the floor to Bohdan, please. Just summarizing. Dmytro says that international partners do help us. Well, international partners from the survey, the trust is not equal like to president. President is trusted more, but so much trust to international partners. And where we have trust, we have responsibility. They go shoulder to shoulder. So the question is to you, what do you expect? What you're doing for it, what you expect in return? What do you aspire to get? What do you want to get from people and from business and from state? I'll try to summarize, if I'm allowed. I can't speak on behalf of all the partners, foreign partners we have many of them, and the demand and expectations are not linear, okay? And these depend truly on, I'd break these into 4 groups, depending on who is the potential partner, a specific fund, a specific IFI, or the state, even like helping Ukraine.
Уряду чи окремим громадам.
Maybe like helping the government or separate community. I can break these into 4 parts. So, expectations we have regarding expectations to president, government, legislators, expectations to state power. And these expectations are clear. First of all, to have rational, balanced, clear policy, state policy on reconstruction, strategy of recovery. As we see it, it must be consolidated. So take into account the vision of the ministries, state agencies, the voice of communities, the voice of civic society should be there, should be heard, and it should be built on that. The biggest expectations. Second, I'm building this hierarchy, but let's give it like second one, expectation to create a proper reconstruction process. The ministerial representative said we have so many current tools that are used, or even being designed and implemented. We have a luggage, a big box of tools on accountability and transparency, using it, how to use it.
Потрібно закривати інформацію.
Do not reduce access to information. It's the key thing. Access to monitoring, how to monitor the recovery process, and engaging the key stakeholders at the level of state, engaging communities, leaders of communities and civic society at different levels. One group of partners that international organizations support. If you take local authorities, the expectations will be pretty much similar. Building the process of reconstruction, planning, looking for contractors, access to information on current projects. If we also speak about local level, it's obligatory to have people involved in that, in decision making. I mean, citizens. Depending on specific community level of its development, someone is doing that better, someone needs to get some help on how to engage people properly to decision making, but it goes deeper. It's for discussion. If you talk about civic society, international partners, it's clear. The expectations are clear. Being active, consolidating efforts,
Функції монітора.
Performing the functions of monitor, combining efforts with local governance and local state authorities to find proper solutions which are okay for everyone who's engaged. And if we speak about the fourth group, business, again, depending on the level of, if we speak about the local level, small, mid-level business, there is an expectation that these will be engaged in recovery, not just financial engagement, but business creates jobs, business generates income, affects local development directly. So engagement and understanding of that we are united in the recovery process, it's an expectation, direct expectation. If we go deeper and tell what is being done in Взаимодія, we cooperate with key ministries and state power bodies, state enterprises and institutions, and our task is simple. We help them to improve their procedures, internal procedures and processes. Dmytro says thank you to international partners, to you as well. Yes, we cooperate with them as well. In a simplified way, tell us what you are doing, because people watching us, they think of international partners as someone who gives the weapons, the money, in suitcases, what you are doing. Yes, we're doing that as well, not us. We are not giving weapons. But okay, we have different areas of cooperation, different partners. They are taking specific sectors. Our project is a soft project. We help the ministry by providing foreign expertise, helping to find experts, specialists, professionals in various areas, and they work directly with the ministry in current projects, depending on the tasks the ministry is giving them. Plus,
Частково
we are partially engaged in development of the system, dream system for recovery. in one of the elements. The system is really very complicated and huge. We have one of the tasks. We are designing the TOR, Yeah, we're helping to make it possible. It's a little bit difficult. It's hard to explain. Technical assistance, that's what we're doing. Expert support, thank you so much. We heard that state is supported by international partners, and I just want to push it to business. A question, who is helping business? But I'll ask another one. The survey data show that business also trusts internationals, and it's important. What was unexpected for me, approximately 83%, I guess, had losses, damages business, 25% with destruction, and only 1/3 is doing something to record it. Okay? I have a question to Yuriy.
Що ви очікуєте?
What do you expect? Or maybe you are disappointed and you expect nothing from a state, from people, from... What is the standpoint of business? You are the driver of the economy, especially now. What do you expect from all the stakeholders and everyone? Well, first of all, I'd like to say that this is a multifaceted, multidimensional issue, and there are so many components, first of all. To have a general statement given, we need to talk... I'm not criticizing, but we have to take every problem as a challenge and look for solutions. So, regardless of... It may sometimes be very hard to move this dialogue, but we have to communicate using the language of solutions to help each other, because this is how we can move within this roadmap. First of all, business, within so many generations, we have this habit. We are taking care of ourselves. It's something, we rely on ourselves. But here, definitely, we need to get this healthy environment, favorable environment to do more, to do better. And business, even now, we do so much to defend the country, to help defending the country. Regarding those challenges, we have today, and something we've been observing within the last 3-6 months, we can see there is more pressure on various businesses in various levels, and even those businesses which are very active in defending the country and supporting the army. We all together, all of us have to ask the question, is this like a coincidence, or because the enemy cannot achieve its, let's say, goals beyond the border? That's why we have internal enemy activated. Corruption. Speaking mathematically, it's a tool thanks to which the war is here as well. And if we take the results of the survey, apart from corruption, there is a problem with courts, with judiciary, and other stuff.
Це все
But this whole thing is it has the same roots, If we combine it mathematically, we'll get much worse situation when it comes to corruption. So we have to strengthen the transparent, objective dialogue between state and business to fight these challenges. It's really important. And this survey demonstrates it, it proves it. Other thing is what we have to understand. Many things we would love to have this long-term vision included in it, working like an ecosystem, yeah? Like banking system, what we can see that traditionally, historically, the regulator, there was more pro-banking policy. But to me, it seems that we need to have a broader vision. Think of the real economy. Many businesses today, I repeat it, they're doing a lot of important stuff to defend the country, but we have so many entrepreneurs taking part in hostilities. They are literally defending us, and we need to think, how shall we integrate the military, the combatants? Many entrepreneurs will come back with some challenges and financial challenges as well. We all have to look for these solutions, you know, to implement more ecosystem-based solutions, broader. Then we'll start thinking of the recovery methodology and other things, because people will actually recover the country, construct the country. For us to find the way to reimburse the damages and losses, as it was mentioned, we have certain problems with the budget in the country, and the support that we receive from international donors and partners, we are grateful for it. If not, if we don't speak about the weapons and ammo, we can't use all the money just for the army. Yes, we know that. We have to fund it from our budgets. Again, without economy, there wasn't any single victory in the history of humankind. So we have to support business for the business to continue supporting the country in general. And it's really important.
Питання, вона все працює
And again, we are coming to this ecosystem approach. We, as a society, as all stakeholders, we have to be more actively engaged and be more radical, have more radical decisions on sanctions. We finally must get rid of Russian business in the country, because economic dependence later will drag political dependence. So if we are more brave, then our international partners will be braver, because now, how many packages of sanctions we had? Like 11, 12, 13. But we need to be more decisive. If we are decisive, then the international community will be more decisive as well. A lot of people today say about reimbursement of damages and expenses. They speak of the use of money that are under the sanction money, or something that can be seized from Russian leadership or Russian business globally. But today, if we speak of practical, actual mechanisms, how to do that, so far there are no properly let's say, functioning, legitimate ways to solve it, you know? We can see that there are so many initiatives from British lawyers, American lawyers. Why? Many agreements, many contracts we have which are based on their law, and the American Treasury responsible for sanctions, the methodology, they're responsible for that methodology they generated. But businesses, they know that some tools still at the global level are not properly functioning, and we now have to design our own solutions. We can't wait for something in the future. We have to defend the country,
і підтримувати теж економіку.
protect our economy. Without economy, again, it will be really hard to win the war. You spoke of the pressure at the beginning. Yeah, you gave a broad picture. So maybe you have a chance to bring your idea on what should we do if we have like give it 1, 2, 3. Where the pressure is the highest, you know, it's the strongest. You can use the platform and express your opinion on behalf of all the business community. Due to ethical considerations, I will not give specific names of specific companies. It's incorrect. But I want to draw attention. Today, there are so many business associations, business communities, they merge. CEO Club was the initiator, and if I'm not mistaken, more than 100 members are there in association to become a platform to protect business. And what would be important, I think, for the country, business finally to become a subject, not an object, okay? When we are the subject sitting at the table, when new rules of the game are designed for Ukraine's recovery, then we'll have synergy. Then we will act as ecosystem. on general stuff. When in the media we can see that all those inspections are initiated again and some tax pressure is increased, when we read these articles, when we look at peaceful times, this would be objective in a peaceful time. But again, we need to think out of the box. We don't have business as usual right now. We just have to do the opposite. We have to find a way to help business first to survive and to help even better. For the survival of business, I read recently, I just want to think of your opinion, the banking system you mentioned. Is there any support to business right now? How easy for business it is right now to get loans in banks? Because there is an opinion that banks are just sitting on their money, not giving it to anyone because of the war. Like, it's better to keep it in the bank. I won't give it to anyone. What is the situation in the regions with business? Are there any advancements? Are banks loyal to business? Are they open and offer loans?
Чи все-таки є якийсь стримуючий фактор?
Or it's quite limited. Today it's really hard. It's very limited today. And yes, some banks have the liquidity, they do, but many banks, they don't even consider the option today of providing loans. They may be a separate, like, advertising PR story, but if you have a specific conversation, despite the fact that they decreased the interest, like, or the deposit accounts, they don't give loans still. Maybe some of these support their existing clients, those who are clients before the full-scale invasion. Unfortunately, when it comes for the real economy entrepreneurs today, the funding sources for business quite limited. And again, that's why I have to support business, maybe with other methodology, maybe with other taxation regime, some other stuff. Because anyway, when we take the enterprise balance or like this form number 2, if we can't get something from one source, at least we know that thanks to smart financial policy of the enterprise, we can save somewhere, we can get the state support, and we still have the resource to act. It's very important. What we need today, we need to launch the funding of the real economy. This is a fact.
Я дипломатично зараз.
I'll sound diplomatic, but it's not functioning at all. We are at war, I understand. The budget is pretty limited, and in the 579 program, it has certain challenges today. So we just have to design. We can sit all at one table with citizens, with people, with business, and just design a tool. Take into account that we have liquidity. Banks can help us, especially those businesses who were affected and have limited incomes or no income. We need to have this objective restructurization. Not just to completely kill the business, which is affected, but restructurization. For the policy not to be, it's not about the banking sector, but for us to think about economy as an ecosystem.
Працювати в синергії.
Everything, there must be a synergy. Okay, thank you. I can now conclude. That's why business is relying on itself, because we are like we sometimes feel like we're in a bubble. We don't hear the voice of other party. I'm so sorry for being that peculiar with the questions. Yeah, I'm just like being very picky. I apologize for it. The last question. You mentioned the integration of people. Let's not. Yeah, we have many businessmen and women defending us right now as combatants. They will return, and the survey tells us this. The population says that, like, in the top 5 of priorities is about integrating the combatants returning from war. Does business community, do you discuss like how can you even try to integrate this category of people, those who are defending us right now, those entrepreneurs who simply returned from war? I'm asking because I know that today Ministry of Economy is working on these reserved contracts, but it's about public procurement. So certain preferences in public procurements for that kind of business, veterans organizations, combatant enterprises. What do you think about it? What is your vision? First of all, I think that this should be combined with corruption and social tension. Because, well, why? Military, entrepreneurs, we have so many people defending country. And despite the fact that they are the front line and they give us a chance to actually communicate today, they see everything. And many people do understand many things. When they observe these horrible things that we've seen in the survey, this can give a negative effect on, let's say, it may increase the social tension and so on. I don't want to talk more about it. But many boys and girls are returning today. Many of them are entrepreneurs. Many do have problems with loans already because they decided to go and defend us instead of working in their business. They had no chance to run the business. So
військових суспільств.
we have so many challenges on how to integrate the military. Psychological rehab, it's for the whole generation to work. In future, we can have specific measures for it. Each business, at least among my friends and partners, we are trying to be active. For example, in my enterprise, Toronto-Kyiv, we are taking part in psychological rehab programs, and we have Jakub as our partner, you know, the business nonfiction, educational initiatives. We've launched that, by the way, in 2014, because so many people later want to become entrepreneurs and they really want to have some great projects and programs. On integration again, we need to create design these solutions like ecosystem solutions, real economy. We have to help business. The business will be happily hire those people when there is a chance. You know, all these combatants to become the members of their teams, because that's how we see each other. It's not something abstract for us. In CEO Club, more than 250 founders and CEOs we have there, and representatives of big and medium business. Some of our members are at the front line right now. Some are returning. They are the owners of investment funds and companies, you know, but they are there. They're returning.
Речей про це, мабуть,
We don't speak of that much, but we do a lot. We all act as a one team. That's why I express my opinion that we are a team. We do not split. That's okay. When we try to, like, say, individual entrepreneurs or mid-level business, big business, we have to be one team. What I usually repeat in different groups, those people who have actual values, real values, and those who are doing real things for Ukraine today, despite, it doesn't matter if you're a general, a sniper, an entrepreneur, we all have to be united, because, like, we have a big way in front of us, like now and after the victory. Thank you so much. So with these words about unity, I will come to the civic society now. It's really important. Approximately 94% of civic society, they are ready to be engaged, as the survey says. And all speakers mentioned about engagement, that we have to be engaged, united. Aidar, what we have to do for this intention to become real? Okay, let's go back to the results of the survey. Couple of figures. I noted these. I don't want to give some wrong data. So Ukrainians want to have transparency and accountability of the process. 79%, yeah. They insist that state authorities must consult with publicity. 94 of these, percent of these, yeah.
73 вважають,
70 thinks that corruption is like a basic risk, like a potential, the biggest potential obstruction for recovery. 60% of Ukrainians trust, want to ensure the control to NGOs. And we can now see how can we ensure the engagement of people. Our surveys that we carry out in the project called Engaged. Our surveys show that citizens now claim that they would love to, but they actually are engaged right now to various activities, including monitoring and at the level of communities, at the level of NGOs and CSOs. We can see that this level is increasing. It recently has been increasing, but at the same time, the Ukrainians demonstrate they have the knowledge about the mechanisms of engagement, democratic engagement. At national, local level, constantly, year by year, this indicator goes up. On the other hand, when we talk of like how do you participate, how you actually engage, what tools you use, the majority of Ukrainians use the most passive methods. Maximum is about filling out an electronic petition and sign it, like for us to understand. It's okay with the knowledge. It's a high level. Engagement or readiness to engagement is high. Level of tools using, minimal. When you ask, did you apply to law enforcement? Did you notify law enforcement of corruption cases? In our surveys, we can see that 3% of people who actually did it, 3% of respondents. So what should we do? Okay, I'm coming to it. Taking into consideration that level of trust to NGOs and CSOs is high, CSOs, those who handle, especially those who handle advocacy and monitoring of state authorities, they have to represent the interests of community and they have to ensure it. So one of the possible elements on how to ensure it, via participation of CSOs as mediators, because if the community is not capable of doing that directly, no time, no wish, I don't know, no tools or passive tools are used, CSOs have a chance to do it. Transforming the trust that is there, 60%, yeah, to CSOs. Like, we can entrust you, you know, and you can monitor the reconstruction process and control it, yeah? Let's have this trust transformation more effective. What do we need for it? The question is, are CSOs ready for it? Because recovery is a very specific thing. And the first thing, you have to get expertise. Do we all have that expertise when we talk about recovery?
питання, і це найважливіше.
Second important thing, do we have connection, we as civic society, CSOs, connection with our target audiences? Do we know, are citizens ready to talk to us how this should be done? Do we trace their wishes, their aspirations, their vision of the recovery? Do we talk to local authorities, which were mentioned as the key actors in the recovery process? And the task is for the CSOs, transforming the trust in effective mechanism for people to be engaged. I'm not saying about standard ones that we have in the state, public consultations, democratic things, methods people can use. Just directing the efforts at more efficient, in current conditions when we're at war, more efficient mechanism via the system of democratic representatives, CSOs in this case. We transform the trust. We have the knowledge, experience, regular communication to build this bridge between state authorities, potential, and trust. Okay, a question on transformation. We have a representative of state,
організації громадської
international community, and business with us today. You raised an important issue of expertise. Do you compete for people for the same experts at the market? Like recovery, okay? Ministry needs experts. Parties mobilized. Like there are no people. We know what salaries are. Business is mobilized. International partners are like ready to give money for expertise. Question. How to identify these people? Is there competition on the market for this segment of experts? I'll start with the following. Expertise before the war, we didn't have enough of expertise. Before the full-scale war, we did not have enough expertise. We were recovering the East within the scope of 2014. These were targeted projects. There was no general vision. I think that we all right now are in the same conditions. State authorities, business, civic society, donors. We have to nurture and raise the experts and staff. International donors bring their experts to train from abroad, to train our local specialists on how to recover. A question. International expertise and current reality is like different. Is there a limit? Because we can bring people from all around the world, the best ones. They will train hours and leave, but everything will be the same here. No, it shouldn't be like this. This is one of the options. The next stage is competition, when state competes with civic society and business when it comes to personnel. It's happening all the time.
З одного сектору в інший.
Our personnel is migrating from one sector to another every 5 years. I understand what is the question. I don't think that expertise will disperse. It will be there, but is it concentrated in the state authorities or civic society? Yeah. Speaking of the public, we think of CSOs in our developed society where we have super developed CSOs. We think of them as those who have the same functions as the state. At a certain level of our state development, when we delegate something to CSOs, that's important because in Transparency International, we had the same stage. Sometimes we substitute the state functions, like substitute the state, the question to state. On personnel, it's such an interesting discussion. Do we compete for people? I want to say yes, we compete for people. We as a state lose because we can't pay as much as our colleagues pay, those who help us. What is the salary, average salary? Just tell it to people, okay. The leading specialist, the one who designs the policies, important person in the ministry, not the leader, but the executive, yeah, with the documents. And then the leader checks it, 11,000 hryvnias, some benefits. Okay, let's have it like 22,000. It's not even about a competition. Yeah, you understand what I'm talking. A person who has been in the ministry as a specialist on recovery for a year, later, this person easily finds a job with a better salary, more competitive in our donors projects. I agree that we do not lose the expertise. This person will later help us as a partner. But we have to train another one. It takes time. And yes, competitive salaries for state experts, this would be good. This would help us. You mentioned also that, we'll have recovery process in thousands of communities locally. That's why ministry, mayors are not well trusted. No, it's about the trust, but competence, yeah? Not all communities have a chance to fill out the documents, design plans. Our partners help us, foreign partners, CSOs. And this initiative is launched by the ministry as well with our partners. So we create offices to support recovery and reforms in the regions and communities. The representatives will go there. And this is a support from our partners as well. And they will help communities to design plans and projects.
Розумієте, це наші люди, які
But these are the people who worked in the communities or in the ministry for some time. These are our ACS personnel. Yes, this is partially a problem, but still, people stay and they still work for recovery. Okay. Yuriy wants to ask a question. Okay, I want to remind our viewers and listeners, Facebook and YouTube, please ask us questions. We're coming from the second part of the event to like the discussion right now. We're asking questions. Be active. And I will ask your questions. Yuriy, please. Just to add that, yes, I agree that we all compete. We all compete for talents, for experts. And for example, one methodology to solve it, saying is, okay, let us just become better because healthy competition is the best thing for market, for talents. But when it comes to business, as a businessman, I want to say business with good reputation, with lots of challenges trying to survive right now and help the country and army. For us, it's hard because the survey shows that planning horizon is really short. Some agreements are concluded depending on whether the business is rental, like 3 months, 6 months. For example, well, people are not ready to have longer agreements, and I can speak of my area, Yakabu, Toronto-Kyiv. For some time, we had no income. But we decided to support teams. We waited for people to stand on their feet, but this is a matter of time. When business has these opportunities totally vanishing. When you support business, business supports the others. We have taxes paid out of salaries. Yeah, so again, the broader vision, when I speak of the synergy in ecosystem, if we all together, without any competition, being the subjects of society, sitting at one table, when we sit at the table and set the trend that we together will openly and radically fight against corruption, let's say. It would be interesting to see what effect it has, because any expert, any talent cannot be retained just with the money. People want to have stability. They want to feel that it's going to be better. And to have this emotional, or to have this hope, if we do it, maybe then we won't have the competition, but we'll just expand the target audience for us at the same time, for all of us. And the surveys will give us different results. Thank you.
Дякую. У нас ще коментар від...
We have a comment from international partner. Just a short remark. Well, first, very close to what Aider said when he spoke of the tools and how engage and use the opportunity. And I really agree about the synergy. I'll give a negative remark, but it's my concern. For so many times we've observed, and Aider may agree and confirm as a person who has been working with civic society and developing it, for so many times we observed in the country how people are mobilizing and uniting, consolidating at the stage of challenge. As soon as the challenge or trigger is away, when the trigger is away, we have this people start moving in the opposite direction, and this unification just dissolves. A lot to think about here, how to keep this level of engagement for people. Maybe something IDER offered us or other formats on how to keep people engaged. It's just a trend. Yevhen Hlibovetsky thought of the reasons for that to happen. Weak and strong institutions. He does not need advertising, but anyway. The opinion on how to retain the consolidation level after. We'll have so many challenges apart from recovery. Integration of combatants, reintegration of occupied territories. The spectrum is broad. I will add about the consolidation. It's important to remember that these 94% of people desiring to engage, we should take it as almost 100%. Everybody wants to do something, but we have objective reality. In Transparency International Ukraine, we had, in Transparent Cities program, we had survey on transparency and accountability. Declaring and doing. When you declare transparency, it's like you are transparent. It's great. But when you check whether if it's implemented, if it's actually done and accountable, different figures. So this prism is important as well. This discussion should be taken by this prism. I want to remind everybody we have first questions. I will ask these. The first one is to Dmytro. Before I ask it, I'll ask my question. Connected to Yuriy. Okay, it's good we have a business representative.
Зараз багато робиться.
Dmytro, a lot is done for average Ukrainians, those who lost their homes, you know. We have the sectoral systems and mechanisms. You can use Monobank and open an account, you know, to get this compensation. But this is for citizens. We have a business representative saying that I rely on myself. What the state is planning to do you actually plan to do something for business as a state? When at the beginning of this event, I said that we'll establish this dream system, digital dream system. A separate area in the system is about interacting with business. We will provide an opportunity for business to initiate their projects. We plan to give this opportunity to business and get some support from the ministries or communities in different cases, like about the land plots to be allocated, and other types of support which are legal and may be provided by local authorities. The register of destroyed and damaged property is a different thing. We now have amendments designed for a decree which regulates the registry functioning. There will be a block for business where business again will be able to register destructions and damages in the registry. Later, to be compensated or reimbursed from various sources. So basically, this is clear. We are working with that. But again, we all understand what's happening in the country. Economically, we can see people who are affected. I do support Yuri's opinion. If business works, it may help people, and it will. Employment, this is something that's important for affected people, or access to jobs. Like, it's important for all Ukraine. So my answer is yes, we're working. Soon we'll open this for business, and the dream system will try to respond to business needs. Thank you. And online question, and yeah, we have questions from participants. A question from a viewer, and it's there was a slide, by the way, where Anastasiya told, like, what should we start recover with? So this question is about it. We spoke of the strategy. The question, what is being done now to formalize the criteria of project selection to avoid subjective decisions to be made by selection committee? How to ensure that civic society is actually taking part in this process? It's about allocation of money, yeah? I can just tell you that yes, this was the first question. Transparency and accountability. We all want this fund for elimination of hostility and aggression consequences to be transparent. The first question partners ask, prioritization of recovery projects. In your survey, I've seen how people see the prioritization. The official position is the same, almost 100%. Yes, the first one, critical infrastructure, water supply, energy. Second, education, healthcare, and so on. How this should be done?
Ми разом з коаліцією
Together with RISE Coalition, with World Bank, we are designing the methodology on how to prioritize recovery projects. And we have a task from the cabinet. In 6 months, we have to design and approve it. Certain time has passed, and the first ideas are there. We will present these in London, by the way. So, we'll have an automatic, very clear methodology for each project to be prioritized. All the projects will be in hierarchy, and you will clearly see why we first fund this, but not that. It's not about funding and selection of projects. We have a lot of destroyed projects. Thousands we have of projects. How to pick, how to establish the importance level. In transparency, we've also designed our preliminary prioritization, and we shared with the ministry. It was taken partially, some parts were taken to prioritize the current projects. As far as I know, as of now, the World Bank is designing the methodology on the basis of designed by the RISE. It's a basic methodology, and we improved it. We can say that yes, the work is being done, and soon it will be presented.
Від учасника в залі. Будь ласка, представте.
A question from someone in the hall, and Oleg Boychun, Ukraine NATO League, member of the International Anti-Corruption Assembly. So we will have Kyiv Volunteers Forum, more than 600 delegates we'll had. We will be there talking about corruption-free territory with new technologies in construction. 5.0, 4.0 industry, what European Union is doing. Construction, it's not modernization. Modernization of making Tavria looking like Laos, putting everything in the land, digging when we start having wide schemes, new technologies. Modernization, energy efficiency, it's not there. We are building. Building the society 5.0. Okay. On June 30th, please, you invite everyone. We have a question. So we created the public consortium, Ukraine Meta Cluster. We invite you to help us and volunteers. You have more expertise. You have more funds. We have opportunities. Many things we do have. We just need to have your expertise on how to unite this and combine it. Please, reconstruction and construction. I haven't heard the construction word there, okay? Thank you for the clarification.
То не забувати.
Yeah, we will be careful with words, and we have a bright example of how people unite in coalitions. Just to continue with that on construction. And reconstruction of the destroyed objects. I have a question to everyone, briefly. We have electronic Prozoro system. How should the procurement take place? At this platform, so we have international block with some rules, yes, and It's more about accountability and transparency we started with. So do you support the idea for the procurement to be handled by Prozoro? When I speak about Prozoro platform, I'm not saying that it should be done based on the cabinet's decree regulating public procurement. It's more about soft. It's more about it like a tool. One by one, briefly. First, clear that this is the prerogative of the state to decide which rules are there for procurement. Yes, we have Prozoro system, and everybody agrees that this is a successful product, a good product, implemented by the state. At the same time, the current situation shows that there are some technical details of procurement implementation. It may be improved for the system even to be better. As far as I know, even something's happening already in the Ministry of Economy and with CSOs.
В цілому так?
Дякую.
Generally, yes. Business, it's important to hear something from you because Yuriy can tell. What is your attitude for everything to go through Prozoro system? What do you think about it? Okay. I have some experience in development and construction. We all have to realize that right now the price of construction in all aspects is substantially higher. Because first of all, we have, remember, many plants and factories were closed during COVID and a lot of idle periods, higher price for energy sources, Russian war against us gives an effect. Everything is becoming expensive. And when we speak about Ukrainian system of like environment of contractors, as the survey shows, many people left. We know that migration is still there, and we need to find a healthy balance between the tender with any transparent methodology and quality. We do not need to do it just to put the tick. It should be a comprehensive decision because we have to get quality. Like the colleague mentioned, in Ukraine, we have unique opportunity not just to reconstruct, not just to repair, let's say. We have a chance to build with new rules, with new technologies, energy efficient, much better. So we have to be very balanced. There must be a balance between transparent methodology and quality. For us to have a long-term vision, and only that's how we can move. Thank you. I have one question if someone wants to add. People in the hall. Greetings, Alevtina Drazenko, Coalition of Urban Initiatives, March for Kyiv. I have a question for civic society. You mentioned that, okay, let's have CSOs as mediators. Of course, yes, but CSOs...
Треба робити відновлення, відбудову.
There are not enough CSOs for all the communities requiring recovery. You say that people don't use active engagement methods, but I have a question. Are the windows open for these tools of engagement? Because yes, we had the march for 10,000 people. We had requirements set, yes, before the war. It's how we mobilize the society. We come to Kyiv Council, we talk to mayor, but we wanted to talk to mayor, but mechanisms did not change. There were no public consultations. Okay, if you want to build like a parking lot, nobody consulted with us. Yeah, I understand that it's an urban environment, but it's the same for the national recovery. A mayor or community must initiate this entry point, create this entry point for people to present their voice. Mariupol City Council. Now, they already have these public consultations, sitting at the tables, discussing with communities, with the dwellers who left to different communities to talk what recovery they want, you know, to know what Mariupol should look like after the occupation. What are the priorities?
Я знаю, що є механізми.
I know that there are legal mechanisms for it, but nobody uses that, in fact. Communities don't use it, so can we affect it? Okay, I can actually add, I know a little bit about this. I'll try to answer. As a Rise Ukraine member, I discussed it as well. We discussed it and we try to implement tools which will allow to ensure what you're talking about. Direct engagement of communities to decision-making, discussion, and so on. As far as I know, as of now, Ministry of Infrastructure, Dmytro will add, is designing testing service of electronic democracy, voting in Dia for a certain project. I think it's about that. Yeah. Your issue is relevant to remember about it, and it's important to engage. I know that Ministry of Infrastructure is doing some work for it, and we expect that soon citizens in Dia will somehow finally vote for it. Yes, the question is how this will be implemented, because it's really hard. It's going to be hard to identify a specific person, but I think it's there. Dmytro, will you add? I just want to add that this is really an important issue in how to engage people. This is direct democracy. In the DREAM ecosystem, we mentioned at the beginning, we'll have a huge block. Idem, I don't want to I just want to say that we will ensure the maximum toolkit for every citizen to express the vision on recovery, or give comments, or control the recovery process. One remark. Infrastructure exists to ensure the engagement of people, democratic engagement in the country. Legislative support, different councils are there in different agencies. Who is in the councils? How did people get there? That's a different question. I want to mention different thing. It's important how this direct democracy will be ensured, not to deteriorate the idea. Because voting online for a project of recovery by average citizens, this may give certain consequences for future policies and implementation of these projects, because the level of knowledge, level of expertise, level of prioritization, different people are different, you know? I spoke of civic society should be there as a mediator, first of all, to help the state and citizens keep the contact. If we just ask someone to vote for a project of recovery, there will be a very weird picture, you know, and yes, people want to vote for social things, and yeah, small communities maybe will be deprived of. So yeah, it's about the vision. It's how well people are prepared. If they see the value of the reform, who should help those who have the expertise. Yeah, this is important. If we have enough CSOs or not, yeah, we have enough. You can't even imagine how many CSOs we have in the country. I understand that not many of those function, but those who do, it's enough. Anastasiya. I just want to underline that this discourse on recognizing the role of... So the state must recognize the role of people who can affect it, and citizens recognize and they use their right to affect the decision. It's a discourse we've had for many years already.
В більшій перспективі.
If we shift the perspective, we can see that there is positive dynamics. And the project mentioned by Ivan today on transparency and accountability of cities, we rated the cities. In 5-7 years, the recognition of understanding this is a governance tool, that this is a part of routine work already emerged, by the way, in certain municipalities, in certain regions. Of course, this is not a 100% practice, and it depends so much on people. On the one hand, it's an important thing, and we can see that there are positive trends. On the other hand, do we need to talk about it more? Yes, and I really would just my summarizing remark. Based on the results of the survey, what we've seen that society becomes more demanding, more radical, and less. It's for people. It's harder to tolerate these just declarations, empty declarations. People are now becoming the actors, in this wartime reality. They feel they can influence. The price is already paid for independence, for the freedom, for our struggle. It's a high price. Society will never forgive will never forgive if its role is completely neutralized in future processes. All the stakeholders, everyone at this table have to remember that this dialogue, the statement we had for so many times, it's critically important for future dialogue. Yes, explaining, interpreting. Helping with expertise. This is super important right now, super important tasks for all of us. Thank you, Anastasiya, and I do support everything that you say about. I just also want to add that have so many questions related to control. We have participants who are writing also that the function of control is quite dispersed. For people, it's hard to understand who is responsible, the law enforcement, the controlling agencies, who is responsible for what. Our topic is the presentation of the survey results. We did not mention this, and this is what we should do, because people asked, shall we have like an agency, controlling agency established like SIGAR in Afghanistan? The issue of control is important. We simply can't miss that. We can't let it we can't leave it like it because the price is high. As Transparency International Ukraine, we will be engaged in regional central projects on monitoring of construction and reconstruction for the infrastructure projects in future. I really urge you all to do it. CSOs, citizens, we have to understand thousands of projects, not enough of staff and resources, a lot of projects. Law enforcement agencies and controlling agencies will not cover it. So consolidation, engaging all actors, and this is something I will stop at. Thank you so much. My gratitude to the Armed Forces of Ukraine for your bravery, for giving us this chance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and dear speakers, dear guests, dear viewers and listeners, those staying with us online. And I'm pretty sure that results of the survey will be really interesting. Please check our web pages and Transparency International Ukraine accounts on Facebook. Yeah, so glory.